So let's take a look at swatches, a bit closer look than we had before. I'm in the painting workspace. If you go in there and just reset it, make sure you have exactly the same settings as me. We're going to make the column for the panels a little bit wider, and we're going to double click on the colour guide and brushes just to collapse them. So our main focus is on the layers panel and the swatches panel and the colour panel. Now I've already coloured the dress and shoes with a global colour represented by this little white outline around my swatch. Now the nice thing about that is if I double click it and make a change, notice that everything that uses that colour is changed, even though I haven't got them selected, those layers. So global colours are incredibly powerful. Now I haven't done that for the skin yet. I've got lots of areas that are coloured using this skin tone, but it makes sense for me to recolour them using a global colour. Now at the moment, only each of these elements is on different layers. So if I select one of them, a quick way of selecting all of the same fill colour is to go to Select, Same, Fill Colour. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a new swatch from that colour. And I can do that as well as from the colour panel that we had a look at before. I can create a new swatch just by clicking and dragging it from the main swatch onto here. Now at the moment it's not a global colour, so if I double click it and just want to change it, I can go in there and make a change, and if I preview that it will affect everything that uses that colour. So you can use global colours to affect all the instances of that colour within a comp. Just be aware that if you adjust the tint of that colour, it doesn't work the same way. You need to actually make a selection to adjust the tint, and that's going to make your tint semi-transparent, if you like, so that we're getting like a transparency setting for the colour and using it to tint the object instead of fill it. Okay, so we're going to load up some more swatches and have a look at them. Before I do, I'm just going to deselect this, and I can do that by hitting Command-Shift-A or Control-Shift-A on Windows to deselect, or you can go to the Edit menu to deselect there. And we're going to go into our Swatch Libraries menu. And in there are literally scores of swatches that you can apply to your artwork. Some of them are just basic colours. So if I go into something like kids stuff, for example, that's going to open up all of these colour swatches, and they're saved into groups. We'll have a look at groups a little bit later. But I want to go back in there and I don't want kids stuff. I'm going to choose gradients, and I'm just going to choose the bright gradients and click on one of those to add it to my selection. So this is like the library. So I click on it here and it adds it to my selection of swatches here. Then I'm going to go back in here and I'm going to choose another one, patterns. And let's go into decorative patterns. And I want to select one of the Vonster patterns that come free with Illustrator. Now, if I want to see them a bit more clearly, I can go to large thumbnail view and just select one of those. So I've got enough of these to work with now, and what I'm going to do is just select this dress. So I'll select both the elements of the dress, and you'll notice that if I click on the gradient, it applies a gradient. We're going to have a look at gradients in another movie, so I'm not going to go into too much detail at the moment, but in order to edit that I could bring up my gradient panel, or I could choose the gradient tool to edit it and just make a slight change to that gradient in both the bottom and the top half of the dress. Okay, so I can control gradients. I can also apply patterns, and you'll see it's created a bizarre pattern here. This pattern has transparency in it, so we've actually got a see-through dress, which isn't very good. But I have another pattern here, which is for a flowery dress, and that works really well in this situation. You'll see that just changes her dress to a more flowery one. Now I've decided that the gloves need to be a bit darker, so I'm going to double click on, the process swatch. Now you do have to be careful. You'll see there if I select the swatch, still with a selection active, I'm actually going to replace the swatch that I'd chosen. So I'm going to undo that. Again, my best friend is Command-Shift-A to deselect, or Control-Shift-A. Then I can double click this swatch and just darken down those gloves and shoes a little bit, previewing it until I get the colour that I want for those. Once I'm happy with it, we'll go to almost black, I think. I click OK, and then I'm ready to go. Now, once I have colour the way I want it, what I can then do is select my artwork and save what's called a colour group. And if we go down here to the bottom of my swatches panel, we can see the new colour group menu. There are also other items here. You can view just the gradient swatches or view just your pattern swatches and selectively view swatches in your document. Now, until I save these swatches into groups, I have no way of kind of coordinating them. Some of these colours I've used within my image, some of them I haven't. But by clicking and creating a colour group, I can just call that Maria Artwork Group. And there's various options in there for converting process colour to global. We'll cover process colour in another tutorial. And also you can include swatches for tints that we had a look at earlier. So I click OK, and if we scroll down, it's created a group with all the colours that I've used in this document, making it easy for me to go in and reselect them. Now you will notice it hasn't saved the patterns in there, so patterns won't be saved. And also gradients will be saved as colours. It'll save the individual colours from the gradients, but it won't save the gradient itself. So just be aware of that when you're saving these little groups. Now if I go to small thumbnail view, you can see now here are the groups of colours that I've used in my document. Now, when you save this document, it will save all of the colours that you've used with the document. But if you want someone else to use these colours, you may want to save your swatches as an external file to give to other people. Now, if I go into this menu here, I can open swatch libraries and save swatch libraries. There are also other options for swatches in here, so you can get access to dialog boxes. There's various different ways of sorting and selecting unused colours. But if we have a look down at the bottom, this is where we open libraries. Now, incidentally, we can open libraries from other open documents. So if I had another open document, I could select the colour library from that document. But I can also save it as a standalone document, and we can either save it as an ASE file or as an Adobe Illustrator file. I'm going to choose Save Swatch Library as AI, and I'm going to call it Maria Swatches. And now if I hand this artwork onto someone else, I can click on Save and I can just email them my swatches palette. And of course they can load them by going to Open Swatch Library, Other Library, and just locating the swatch that they want to use. And you'll see that there are various swatches already in the swatches folder. So that's a very quick run through of swatches. There are a couple of other things in here. Here we can create a new swatch by clicking on the new swatch button, which you would expect. And you can also get access to loading and saving libraries in here in the swatch library menu. So a very quick run through about swatches and how to use them in your artwork.